It was a dark, dismal day when I first approached the House of Usher. The mansion loomed before me, its ancient walls cracked, its windows staring like hollow eyes. A chilling wind blew through the barren trees surrounding the house, and the very ground beneath my feet seemed to tremble. I had not seen my childhood friend, Roderick Usher, in many years, but his letter had urged me to visit. He spoke of an illness, of a crumbling mind, and of his sister, Madeline, who was fading before his eyes. I felt a deep sense of dread as I knocked on the heavy wooden door. Roderick greeted me at the entrance, his once vibrant face now pale and gaunt. His eyes were sunken, filled with an indescribable terror. He moved slowly, as if weighed down by an unseen burden. "My friend," he said, his voice trembling, "I am grateful you came." I followed him through the darkened halls of the mansion, the air heavy with dust and decay. The house felt alive, as though it breathed with the same sickness that afflicted its inhabitants. "You look unwell, Roderick," I said cautiously. "What has happened here?" He stopped and turned to face me, his expression one of desperation. "It is the house," he whispered. "It is alive, and it is consuming us. My sister Madeline is slipping away, and I fear I will soon follow." Roderick led me to the drawing room, where we sat in silence. The fire in the hearth flickered weakly, casting long shadows on the walls. I watched as Roderick's hands shook, his mind clearly unraveling. "You mustn't let this house affect you," I said, trying to sound reassuring. "It's only a building." He looked at me with wide, haunted eyes. "No," he said, his voice filled with conviction. "It is more than that. The house and the Usher bloodline are bound together. We are trapped in this decay, and there is no escape." A sudden noise interrupted our conversation. It was a faint, eerie sound, like a distant thud, followed by a soft dragging noise. I glanced around the room, my unease growing. "What was that?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Roderick lowered his gaze. "It is Madeline. She wanders the house in her sleep. The illness has taken her mind as well." Later that night, Roderick brought me to Madeline's room. She lay motionless on her bed, her skin as pale as death. Her eyes were closed, and her breathing was shallow. I could barely believe she was still alive. Roderick stood beside her, his face filled with sorrow. "She is dying," he said quietly. "Soon, she will be gone." A few days later, Madeline passed. Roderick insisted on placing her body in the family tomb beneath the house. I helped him carry her frail, lifeless form into the cold, dark crypt. The air down there was thick and oppressive, filled with the echoes of forgotten lives. As we sealed the tomb, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. Madeline's face had been so calm, so peaceful, but there had been something I couldn't explain, as if she wasn't truly gone. Roderick's condition worsened after we entombed his sister. He became more paranoid, pacing the halls at night, muttering to himself. He claimed to hear noises from the crypt, the sound of Madeline's voice calling out to him. I tried to dismiss it as madness, but deep down, I too began to hear things, faint whispers in the dark, the sound of footsteps where no one should be. One night, a violent storm raged outside the house. The wind howled like a creature in agony, and the thunder shook the very foundation of the mansion. As I sat by the fire, trying to calm my nerves, a deep, hollow sound echoed from beneath the floor. I froze. It was coming from the tomb. Suddenly, Roderick burst into the room, his eyes wild with terror. "She's coming!" he screamed. "Madeline is coming for me." I tried to calm him, to reassure him that it was just the storm, but then I heard it, a thudding, a scratching sound like something, or someone, was trying to escape. My heart pounded in my chest as I followed Roderick into the hallway. The noise grew louder, and with it, the sense of dread. And then, I saw her. Madeline stood at the end of the corridor, her burial shroud dragging behind her, her eyes wide open, filled with fury. She staggered toward us, her face pale, her body moving unnaturally, as though driven by something beyond life. "Brother," she whispered, her voice hollow and chilling. "You left me. You buried me alive." Roderick collapsed to the floor, sobbing in fear. "I'm sorry," he cried. "I'm sorry." Madeline reached him, her hands cold and rigid as they gripped his shoulders. I watched in horror as she dragged him down, her strength unnatural, her rage unstoppable. The house began to tremble violently, as if it too were falling apart under the weight of its curse. I fled the mansion as the walls began to crack and the ceiling caved in. Outside, the storm raged on, and as I looked back, I saw the great House of Usher collapse into the earth, swallowed by the dark, swirling waters of the Tarn. The house, the family, and its curse were gone forever. I was the only one left to tell the tale.